I ranked 10 side hustles by realistic profit, risk, and effort. Most summaries skip the operating details. On Money Machines we map how side hustles actually make money, what it costs to run, where margins get squeezed, and whether the hype matches reality. Illustrative estimates only, not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. This ranking episode compares common side hustle categories: freelancing, reselling, local services, content creation, and gig app driving, across realistic profit potential, time investment, startup capital, and risk. Rather than promoting one model, it applies a consistent scoring framework so viewers can compare categories directly instead of trusting isolated success stories pulled from social media. This ranking spans 5 broad categories: gig app driving/delivery, freelance skills, reselling/flipping, local services, and content creation, each with a fundamentally different relationship between hours worked and income earned. Gig and local service categories trade time directly for money with a hard ceiling. Freelance and content categories can compound over time but require a much longer unpaid ramp before income appears. A useful lens beyond raw income potential is time elasticity, whether extra effort in a given week produces roughly proportional extra income, true for gig driving and most freelancing, or whether income is decoupled from any single week's effort, true for content and some reselling, where today's work often pays off months later or not at all. Startup capital and skill requirements vary independently of income potential, which is why side-by-side ranking matters more than any single, best side hustle, headline. A $0 capital gig job and a $2,000 capital reselling operation can produce similar monthly income with completely different risk profiles, capital at risk versus time at risk. Before evaluating income potential, identify who pays, for what outcome, and why they choose this provider over alternatives. Illustrative monthly income ranges vary enormously by category: gig app driving or delivery commonly estimated at $15.25/hour before vehicle costs, freelance skills, writing, design, development, at $500,000 plus/month depending on client acquisition, reselling or flipping at $200,000/month depending on sourcing time, local services, pet sitting, tutoring, at $300,000/month. Content-based hustles show the widest variance and the longest ramp before meaningful income appears. Gig app driving and delivery income is commonly estimated at $15 to $25 per hour gross, but that figure is frequently quoted before subtracting vehicle depreciation, fuel, and self-employment tax, commonly estimated to erode 20 to 30% of gross pay, meaning the effective hourly rate is often closer to $11 to $18 once true vehicle costs are counted honestly rather than ignored. Freelance income shows the widest spread of any category because pricing is skill and portfolio dependent rather than platform set. A beginner freelance writer might earn $500 per month while an experienced developer with referral flow can exceed $5,000 per month working similar hours. The gap is almost entirely about pricing power and client acquisition skill, not effort. Reselling and flipping margins depend heavily on sourcing time, the unpaid hours spent finding underpriced inventory at thrift stores, auctions, or clearance sales. Commonly estimated monthly profit of $200 to $2,000 assumes the operator has already developed sourcing instincts. New resellers often spend the first several months barely breaking even while learning what sells and at what price. Local services like pet sitting and tutoring benefit from repeat customer economics that gig driving lacks. A single tutoring client can generate recurring weekly revenue for a school year, versus a delivery gig where every trip is a fresh transaction with no compounding relationship value. Compare gross revenue to net cash flow, they are not the same. Startup cost range, illustrative $0 to $3,000 depending on category. Startup costs range from near zero, freelancing on existing skills, gig driving with an owned car, to a few $1,000s, reselling inventory, service equipment. The hidden cost across nearly every category is time. Most side hustles require 10 to 20 hours weekly before they replace even part-time income, and hourly equivalent pay is often below minimum wage in the first months. Margin pressure, wildly variable, skill-based hustles scale better than time-for-money hustles. Owner labor is frequently the largest hidden cost. Value your time at a realistic hourly rate. Vehicle-based hustles carry costs that are easy to underestimate because they show up as where rather than a monthly bill, tires, brakes, oil changes, and depreciation accumulate quietly. The IRS standard mileage rate, a commonly referenced proxy for true per-mile vehicle cost, is often higher than what gig drivers mentally budget per trip. Freelancing has near zero direct costs but a significant opportunity cost during the unpaid portfolio building phase. The first several client projects are often underpriced or done at a discount specifically to accumulate the reviews and case studies that later justify higher rates. Reselling requires working capital tied up in inventory before it sells, plus storage space and platform fees, commonly 10 to 15% on resale marketplaces. Slow-moving inventory ties up cash that could otherwise be redeployed into faster-turning items, a cash flow constraint that's easy to ignore when tracking only gross sales. Across every category, the dominant real cost is time, commonly 10 to 20 hours weekly before a side hustle produces income that would beat minimum wage on an hourly basis. Ranking content that leads with income potential alone, without normalizing for hours invested, systematically overstates how attractive a category actually is. The most common failure is choosing a side hustle based on how it looks on social media rather than personal skills, available time, and local market demand. Gig app work looks easy to start but has thin margins after vehicle wear and gas. Reselling requires sourcing skill that takes months to develop. Ranking content oversimplifies by ignoring individual fit between operator and model. Key failure points: wrong hustle to skill fit, underpricing time, no differentiation, quitting before ramp completes. Hype content optimizes for clicks, operators optimize for contribution margin and cash runway. The most common failure is selecting a hustle based on social media virality rather than a genuine match to personal skills, schedule, and local demand. A hustle that works well for a creator with a large audience or a specific city's gig demand may perform completely differently for someone without those advantages. Gig app work looks deceptively easy to start because the barrier to entry is nearly zero, but that same low barrier means thin margins after real vehicle costs and intense competition for the best-paying trips during peak hours. Reselling failures typically come from sourcing skill that takes months to build. New resellers frequently overpay for inventory that doesn't sell, or underprice items out of impatience to convert inventory back into cash. Content-based side hustles have the widest gap between visible success stories and typical outcomes because failed attempts simply never get published. Ranking videos built primarily on top performer anecdotes understate how much of content income is concentrated in a small top tier. Verdict on side hustles: best fit depends entirely on existing skills, schedule flexibility, and risk tolerance. Startup cost: low-medium scalability, varies by category. Automation: low-medium risk, low-medium beginner, match to your skills. Verdict: rank by fit, not by virality. Do the spreadsheet for your market. Run a small test before scaling. There is no single best side hustle, only a best fit for a given person's skills, schedule flexibility, available capital, and risk tolerance, which is why ranking by category rather than promoting one winner produces more useful guidance. Before committing meaningful hours to any category, run a 2-week timebox test and calculate actual hourly earnings after real costs, including vehicle wear, inventory losses, and unpaid ramp time, rather than trusting a headline income figure pulled from someone else's best month. Subscribe to Money Machines for more hype versus reality breakdowns. Educational content only. Illustrative estimates. Not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice.